trapped, alone, and surrounded by death. One boy's courage and magic would change everything. Watch how he survived the impossible. This story takes us back to an earlier era. In a certain village, there lived a blacksmith and his son. One day, the son approached his father and said, "Father, make a knife for me, one with an extremely sharp edge." The father replied, "My son, a knife is neither good nor harmless. Tell me first, what do you intend to do with it?" The boy gave a vague and unclear answer. "Nothing, father. I just need a knife." After relentless insistence from the son, the father finally forged a knife out of iron for him. The moment the weapon came into the boy's hands, he became bold and fearless. He began threatening his own father and said, "Father, go immediately to the prince's palace and ask for the princess's hand for me. If you refuse, I will strike you with this knife and separate your head from your body." Hearing this, the poor blacksmith started trembling uncontrollably. The boy's eyes were filled with rage and bloodlust. The blacksmith cursed the moment when he had made that knife for his son. He began thinking deeply, wondering what he should do. On one side was a deep well, and on the other, a deadly ravine. If he went to the king to ask for the alliance, the king would surely kill him. And if he didn't go, his own son would murder him. After much contemplation, he finally decided that dying there was better than dying at home. "Let me go to the king," he thought. "Even if I am executed, at least it will be said that a blacksmith dared to ask the king for a marriage proposal. Dying honorably at the king's hands is better than dying anonymously by my son's hand." One day, gathering all his courage, the blacksmith went to the king and requested the princess's hand for his son. Hearing this, the king was enraged from head to toe. "How dare a lowly blacksmith ask for my daughter's hand?" the king thought. He felt like ordering the executioner immediately to behead him. However, the minister was wiser. Leaning close, he whispered into the king's ear, "Your Majesty, if we have him killed, it will only invite mockery. People will exaggerate the matter, and we won't be able to silence everyone. Wisdom lies in avoiding bloodshed. Let the snake die without breaking the stick. Let us ask him a question whose answer he will never find, even in his entire lifetime. If he can be killed with sweets, why use poison?" Then the minister addressed the blacksmith and said, "Blacksmith, we are willing to arrange the princess's marriage with your son, but on one condition: your son must perform a task that no one has ever done before and no one has ever witnessed." Hearing this condition, the blacksmith returned home, thanking God countless times for sparing his life. After reaching home, he told his son everything. Both father and son decided to leave the village and set out on a journey to fulfill the condition. As they traveled, they reached a dense forest. There they saw a man sitting beneath a shisham tree. Yellow flowers were scattered all over the ground. The man had placed his leg inside a furnace, and flames were bursting out from his foot. On the stove, a pan filled with boiling oil was placed, and he was frying and eating fritters one after another. When the blacksmith and his son witnessed this strange sight, they were astonished. They said to each other, "This is something the king must have neither seen nor heard of. Let's learn this." The blacksmith spoke to the man and said, "O servant of God, take my son as your apprentice and teach him how to fry fritters like this." The man replied, "Blacksmith, go further ahead. My master is seated there. If he agrees to take your son as an apprentice, then it may happen. I am not permitted to take students." Hearing this, both father and son continued onward. As they walked further, they came upon another scene. Under the shade of a banyan tree, a man was seated. Banyan fruits were scattered all around. He too had placed his leg into a furnace, with fiery sparks shooting out from his heel. On the stove was a pan of boiling oil, and he was frying and eating jalebis continuously. Seeing this scene, the blacksmith and his son said to each other, "This task is even more difficult than the previous one. The king has surely never seen or heard of this. Let's learn this instead." The blacksmith addressed the man and said, "O servant of God, take my son as your apprentice and teach him how to fry jalebis in this manner." The man replied, "Blacksmith, go ahead. My master is seated further on. If he accepts your son as an apprentice, then it may happen. I am not allowed to take apprentices." Upon hearing this, the father and son continued their journey. Eventually, they reached yet another place. There they saw a man sitting beneath a berry tree. Sweet berries were scattered across the ground. He too had placed his foot inside a furnace, with flames crackling out from his leg. On the stove was a pan filled with sugarcane juice, and he was preparing and eating jaggery. When the blacksmith and his son saw this scene, they thought to themselves, "This task is even harder than the last one. The king has surely never seen or heard of this either. Let us learn this." The blacksmith addressed the man and said, "O noble servant of God, take my son as well into your apprenticeship. Keep him here. Teach him how to make jaggery in the same way." The man replied, "All right. I will take your son as my apprentice and keep him with me. Here are the keys. There is a room in front of you. Open that room, place your son inside, and lock the door from outside." The blacksmith followed the man's instructions exactly. As he locked his son inside the room and turned back, the man took the keys from him and said, "Now return after 1 full year." Handing over the keys, the blacksmith went back home. Meanwhile, the boy sat alone inside the room, hungry and thirsty, waiting for someone to come and help him. An entire day passed, but no one came to his rescue. When the boy finally looked around the room carefully, his hair stood on end and fear flooded his heart. In front of him was a horrifying sight. Human bones were scattered all over the room. He thought to himself, "Who knows how many people have already lost their lives in this deadly chamber before me? My fate will probably be no different from theirs. My father and I were deceived by the man sitting outside. Now I too will die here, writhing in pain like the others. One day, my bones will also lie scattered just like these." Tears welled up in his eyes, and he began to cry uncontrollably. When his heart felt lighter after crying, he went and sat in a corner of the room. His heart whispered, "As long as there is breath, there is hope." The boy picked up a large bone lying on the floor, sharper and more pointed than a knife, and began digging into the wall. Soil kept falling as he continued digging without stopping. His effort through days and nights finally paid off. A hole large enough for a man to pass through appeared in the wall. When the boy crawled through the opening and entered the other side, he was stunned to see another room waiting for him. This room was beautifully decorated. Expensive curtains hung from the walls, and a luxurious carpet covered the floor. Behind a netted curtain, he sensed the soft breathing of a very beautiful body. As soon as the blacksmith's son gently moved the curtain aside, his eyes remained wide open in shock. Before him lay an extraordinarily beautiful fair-skinned girl, sleeping peacefully on a bed. Her youthful body rose and fell with every breath. Due to her movements, her long, dark hair clung to her body. For some time, the boy stood there staring at her in awe. Just then, the girl opened her eyes. At first, she was frightened to see a strange boy in her room, and the boy too panicked, unsure of what fate awaited him. After a moment, when both calmed down, the girl said gently, "It's all right. Come closer. Sit beside me and tell me who you are and how you reached this place." Hearing her words, the blacksmith's son gained courage and narrated his entire story. The girl first gave him food to eat and then said, "The man outside who makes jaggery and locked you inside that room is my father. I am also a sorceress. Do not worry, I will teach you magic." The girl was far more powerful than her father. If her father stood at the 14th level of magic, she stood at the 16th. She began teaching the blacksmith's son magic and, along with that, fed him delicious foods of many kinds. She also gave him the finest clothes to wear. In this way, 1 whole year passed, yet the blacksmith did not come to take his son back. He thought, "Until my son becomes a complete master of magic, I will not return to get him." Thus, the boy continued learning magic from the sorceress, and one day he became highly skilled in it. After 2 years, the blacksmith finally returned. What did he see? The same man was sitting under the berry tree, sweet berries scattered all over the ground. He had his leg inside the furnace, flames bursting from his foot, and he was still making and eating jaggery just as before. The blacksmith asked, "O servant of God, where is my son? 2 years ago, I left him here as your apprentice." The man replied, "I have been sitting here for 2 years, making and eating jaggery. I neither got free time nor went to check. You yourself locked your son in the room and left. Here are the keys, go and see your son for yourself." Hearing this, the blacksmith's face lost all color. His expression kept changing as terrifying thoughts crossed his mind. He believed that after 2 years, finding his son alive was impossible. At best, only his bones might remain. Cursing the jaggery-loving man in his heart, the blacksmith ran toward the room. He inserted the key into the lock and turned it. When the sound of the key reached the girl's ears, she said to the boy, "If it is my father, he will kill both of us. But if it is your father, then we will be saved." The blacksmith opened the door and entered the room, only to find it empty. Passing through the hole in the wall, he reached the other room. What did he see there? Sitting proudly on a raised platform were a beautiful girl and his own son. The one who saves a life is greater than the one who takes it. When the father saw his son alive, his soul finally returned to his body. He ran forward, embraced his son tightly against his bare chest, and thanked God endlessly. After that, the boy introduced the girl to his father. When the blacksmith learned the true reality, his body trembled with fear. He thanked the girl for saving his son's life. The beautiful sorceress, Sahira, then said, "Now there is only one way for both of you to survive. Blacksmith, you must go outside to my father crying and wailing. Tell him that your son died of hunger and thirst, and that you never opened the room. Then ask him for permission to take your son's bones wrapped in a cloth so that you may bury them." The blacksmith came out of the room, crying bitterly. Just as the girl had instructed, he did exactly the same. The man who was busy making and eating jaggery replied, "Yes, yes, take the bones away. What use do I have for them?" The old sorcerer even provided a large sheet so the bones could be carried away. The blacksmith returned to the room and, following his son's instructions, hid his son inside the sheet. As he lifted the bundle onto his shoulder and prepared to leave, the girl warned him, "Remember one thing carefully. The magic I taught your son, do not use it on the way to earn money. If you become rich during the journey, my father will find out, and then he will spare neither you nor your son." The beautiful Sahira stayed behind in the room. The blacksmith pleaded, "My child, come with us. Free yourself from your cruel and heartless father." But the girl refused and said, "If I come with you, all 3 of us will be caught. Besides, my life and death are now bound to this place. Where would I even go if I escaped?" Carrying his son wrapped in cloth on his shoulder, the blacksmith stepped outside. He threw the bunch of keys far toward the sorcerer, who was still sitting there making and eating jaggery. The sorcerer paid little attention, picked up the keys, and became busy again in his work. When the blacksmith had traveled far away from that place, he set the bundle down, freed his son from the cloth, and both thanked God for saving their lives. Once again, father and son resumed their journey. They kept walking until they finally came out of the forest and entered lush green fields. At one place, they saw a water wheel in motion, a bull walking in circles, drawing water from a well. Nearby stood a landowner. The blacksmith's son said to his father, "Father, let me show you a magic trick. I will recite a spell and turn into a bull. You sell me to the landowner. But remember, remove my rope. Do not give it along with me." The boy recited a spell and transformed into a bull. Together, they approached the landowner. Seeing such a strong, healthy, and beautiful bull, the landowner said, "Old man, are you selling this bull?" The blacksmith replied, "Yes, I am." The landowner asked, "What price do you want?" The blacksmith said, 55 rupees. Seeing the landowner hesitate, the blacksmith added, "My bull is excellent. If you doubt it, harness him to the water wheel and test him." The landowner tied the bull to the wheel. The bull drew out water far better than the previous one. The landowner was satisfied and agreed to buy it. The blacksmith said, "But I will not give you my rope." The landowner replied, "That's fine. Remove your rope. I will put on a new one myself." The landowner paid 55 rupees and bought the bull. When the blacksmith had gone some distance away, the bull suddenly changed direction and ran straight back to him. Upon reaching him, the bull turned back into the boy. The poor landowner ran after them, stick in hand, panting heavily, and said, "Old man, have you seen my bull?" The blacksmith replied calmly, "I handed the bull over to you just now. Where is it?" It never crossed the landowner's mind that the boy walking with the old blacksmith was actually the same bull that had escaped. The landowner returned helplessly. The blacksmith and his son did not follow the girl's warning and began earning money along the way. Soon, they had to face the consequences. The old sorcerer discovered that the blacksmith's son was alive, had escaped captivity, and that his own daughter had taught him complete magic. Truly, betrayal from within destroys everything. The sorcerer disguised himself as an old man and reached the road ahead of them before they arrived. Since the blacksmith's son had already tasted success, greed overtook him again. This time, he decided to transform into a camel. He said, "Father, this time ask for exactly 9 rupees, do not accept even 1 rupee less. And remember, do not give the reins with me." After saying this, the boy recited a spell and the boy transformed into a camel. Holding the camel's rope, the blacksmith walked ahead and soon reached the magician, who was already waiting there disguised as a beggar. The beggar asked, "Old man, are you selling this camel?" He had spoken exactly what was in the blacksmith's heart. Smiling with relief, the blacksmith replied, "Yes, I am selling it." The beggar asked, "What price do you want?" The blacksmith said, 9 rupees. Without hesitation, the beggar immediately took out 9 rupees and placed them on the blacksmith's palm. Just then, the blacksmith remembered and said, "But I will not give the reins along with the camel." The beggar was himself a magician and fully aware of the secret and importance of the reins. He replied firmly, "I have paid you the exact price you asked for, and I bought the camel along with its reins. Therefore, you must hand over the reins as well." An intense argument broke out between them. Their quarrel became so loud that travelers passing by stopped to watch. Farmers working in nearby fields ran toward them and gathered around. Addressing the crowd, the beggar said, "People, tell me honestly, have you ever heard of an animal being sold and the seller removing the rope from its neck afterward? Look at this man. After selling the camel at full price, he is now fighting to take back the reins." The beggar's words carried weight. When people realized the sorcerer disguised himself as an old man and reached the road ahead of them before they arrived. Since the blacksmith's son had already tasted success, greed overtook him again. This time, he decided to transform into a camel. He said, "Father, this time ask for exactly 9 rupees, do not accept even 1 rupee less. And remember, do not give the reins with me." After saying this, the boy recited a spell and the boy transformed into a camel. Holding the camel's rope, the blacksmith walked ahead and soon reached the magician, who was already waiting there disguised as a beggar. The beggar asked, "Old man, are you selling this camel?" He had spoken exactly what was in the blacksmith's heart. Smiling with relief, the blacksmith replied, "Yes, I am selling it." The beggar asked, "What price do you want?" The blacksmith said, 9 rupees. Without hesitation, the beggar immediately took out 9 rupees and placed them on the blacksmith's palm. Just then, the blacksmith remembered and said, "But I will not give the reins along with the camel." The beggar was himself a magician and fully aware of the secret and importance of the reins. He replied firmly, "I have paid you the exact price you asked for, and I bought the camel along with its reins. Therefore, you must hand over the reins as well." An intense argument broke out between them. Their quarrel became so loud that travelers passing by stopped to watch. Farmers working in nearby fields ran toward them and gathered around. Addressing the crowd, the beggar said, "People, tell me honestly, have you ever heard of an animal being sold and the seller removing the rope from its neck afterward? Look at this man. After selling the camel at full price, he is now fighting to take back the reins." The beggar's words carried weight. When people realized the dispute was only about the reins, they declared the blacksmith to be at fault. Overwhelmed by the crowd, the blacksmith had no choice. Reluctantly, he handed over the reins along with the camel. The beggar, who was actually a magician and knew the truth of the reins, jumped with joy. The boy was now under the magician's control. Since the reins were in the magician's hand, escape like before seemed impossible.
The mad magician now faced a problem. He could not possibly remove a ring from a girl's finger. After some time, the women filled their pots with clay and headed home. As soon as the girl reached her house, the magician transformed from a heron into a beggar and appeared at her doorstep, calling out. The girl came to the door holding a sieve filled with flour. The beggar said, "Daughter, I do not want flour. I want the ring that is on the little finger of your right hand." Hearing this, the girl became angry. "Who are you to demand this ring from me?" she shouted. When her mother heard the argument, she also came to the door. As soon as the mother learned the truth, she became furious. She was a suspicious woman by nature. She scolded the girl. "You went to the pond to collect mud. Where did this ring on your little finger come from? Tell me, which lover gave it to you? Remove it immediately and throw it away, or I will call your father. I will tell him everything before you make up any lies. I will have you married off at once." The poor girl was trapped in a terrible situation. She removed the ring from her finger and threw it away. The beggar was watching closely, waiting for this moment. He stretched out his hand to catch the ring. But instantly, the boy turned from the ring into a pigeon and flew away, and the magician transformed into a hawk and chased him again. Soon, the royal palace came into view. Both flew above it. The king was seated in his court. Just before the hawk could catch the pigeon, the boy turned into a golden thread and slipped into the king's crown, thinking, "From here, the hawk will not be able to remove me." The magician changed back from a hawk into a beggar and appeared before the king, begging. The king asked, "What do you want?" The beggar replied, "O king, give me the golden thread that is inside your crown." The king was astonished. How could there be a golden thread inside my crown, he wondered. Thinking this, he raised his hand and reached into the crown to check. The moment the golden thread came into the king's hand, it shattered into prayer beads and scattered on the ground. The beggar instantly turned into a rooster and began pecking at the beads. At the same time, the boy transformed from beads into a cat, pounced on the rooster and killed it on the spot. The king stood frozen, shocked, and speechless. His eyes widened in disbelief. He had never seen such a scene in his entire life. After killing the rooster, the boy returned to his original human form, stepped forward, and respectfully greeted the king. Still stunned, the king finally spoke. "What is all this?" The boy replied, "Your Majesty, tell me, have you ever seen or heard of anything like this before today?" The king replied in amazement, "No, never." Then the boy said, "Your Majesty, now remember the agreement you made with my father. I am that blacksmith's son. I have fulfilled your condition in front of this entire court. Now you must keep your promise and give me the princess's hand in marriage." The king had no option left. He was forced to agree and give his daughter in marriage to the boy. A few days later, the blacksmith arrived at the palace with a grand wedding procession, his son seated proudly on a decorated horse. The wedding was celebrated with great splendor. The blacksmith's son became the king's son-in-law. Since the king had no son, he declared the blacksmith's son as his heir. A few years later, when the king passed away, the blacksmith's son ascended the throne and ruled with dignity, honor, and authority. Dear friends, I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you liked the video, do share your thoughts in the comments. Please subscribe to our channel, and thank you very much for watching.